Now when you go, let's see, when you look at the slide, go towards the outer edge of the tissue, and you'll see these small little circular structures. These are known as primordial follicles. Basically, inactive primary oocytes in a dormant state, waiting to be stimulated to activate, to go through a complete meiosis. So they've started meiosis, but they haven't completed anything. They're just sitting there in a dormant state. These are your primordial follicles. Once they receive hormonal stimulation, then they're going to mature into a primary follicle. So inside here you still have a primary oocyte, but this is a much larger primary follicle. You'll have follicle cells and granulosa cells that make up the outer part of the follicle. That's a primary follicle. The primary follicle continues to mature, and as it matures, it will start to develop a space within and around the oocyte. So you see these little openings that start to form? Those are called the antrum. Okay, the antrum begins to form. It's this fluid-filled space that wraps around the oocyte. So we call this whole structure a secondary follicle. You're going to scroll around a little bit more on the same slide, and I'm going to put up a different one just for better visual representation. And you're going to see something like this, where the antrum is significantly expanded. This is called a Graafian follicle, or vesicular follicle. The Graafian follicle, look at the much more pronounced and extensive antrum. This is now a secondary oocyte inside, and you can identify the small little group of cells around the secondary oocyte is called your corona radiata. And then see the thick line that lines, that's your zona pellucida. That little structure there, that little thick line. These are some parts that you should be able to identify on the mature Graafian follicle. And you also have associated with this another slide that's called the corpus luteum slide. What happens is this Graafian follicle is mature. It's ready to be released. So on ovulation, the secondary oocyte is released into the uterine tubes. The leftover products of this follicle becomes active hormonal secreting tissue called the corpus luteum. It starts releasing progesterones and estrogens to start preparing the uterus for implantation of the fertilized egg. Okay, so this Graafian follicle becomes a corpus luteum, which is important for hormonal production, preparing the uterus for implantation of the egg. Okay, so that's what you'll be looking for on the ovary slides.